people that vaccinated with at least one dose, their chances of getting colorectal cancer, the hazard ratio was 1.34. In other words, 34% more likely to get it. This is after a 6-month follow-up. Breast cancer, 54% more likely to get breast cancer in the vaccinated group. Bladder cancer, 62% more likely to get it than the unvaccinated group.
Come see me on tour in Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, Louisville, Fort Wayne, Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, San Francisco, Irvine. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. I don't know if you can see what the headline is on this. Increased cancer after mRNA vaccines. That's the headline. Increased cancer after mRNA vaccines. Let's listen.
Come to this talk now. There's been concern for some time now from talking to various experts about the increased risk of cancers, probably all types of cancers or many types of cancers after COVID vaccines. Now, of course, we're deprived of data in the United Kingdom between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. We just can't get that information freely. But there has been a study done in Italy. And what this shows is increased incidence of cancers 6 months after COVID vaccinations. And I'm going to give you that now. Just let me give you the main figures here before we look at where we got it from. This is the rate of first hospitalization of cancer for any site. Now, what these workers did, it was a whole province in Italy, nearly 300,000 people. And they followed these people up for 2.5 years. And what they found was that of that whole group, the unvaccinated, 0.85% of them received a first cancer admission during that 2.5 year period. But for the vaccinated, it was 1.5. So a much higher percentage of vaccinated being admitted to hospital after 6 months during a 2.5 year follow-up.
So almost double. So that's almost, right? I'm not a math surgeon, but I'm pretty sure that's almost double. So 0.85% of the people who are unvaccinated got admitted for cancer, who were unvaccinated. The people who were vaccinated, 1.5. That's actually more than double, isn't it? I'm not a math surgeon. Check my math.
See the COVID vaccine. And of course, this is real data and quite concerning. So rate of first hospitalization for cancer of any site, unvaccinated group, 0.85% of them were admitted with a first cancer diagnosis. Vaccinated group, a much higher 1.15% admitted. Based on a population of nearly 300,000 people, hospital admissions with a cancer diagnosis, there was 3,124 people admitted. So of this population group, nearly 300,000, this is the number that had cancer. The percentages were 0.85 for the unvaccinated and 1.15 for the vaccinated. And this result was significant. The chances of that arising, even with this relatively small sample size, only 1 chance in 1,000 that this result arose by chance. Now, let's look at where we got this from. This is from this paper here, Experimental in Clinical Sciences Journal, peer-reviewed, of course, made publicly available. You can download the PDF. The full paper is there. A little difficult to follow in places, but I'm going to explain it as best I can. Now, here's the data that they actually came up with in this graphic, which summarizes most of it. And what we actually see here, I know you can't see this, but I'm going to go through it in some detail. This is all cancers: colorectal, lung, breast, uterine body, ovarian, prostate, bladder, thyroid, and blood-related, like leukemias and things like that. So they are the references there, which, of course, I always try and give you. Now, let's have a look at this in a little more detail. So people that had vaccinated with at least one dose, their chances of getting colorectal cancer, the hazard ratio was 1.34. In other words, 34% more likely to get it. This is after a 6-month follow-up. Breast cancer, 54% more likely to get breast cancer in the vaccinated group. Bladder cancer, 62% more likely to get it than the unvaccinated group.
This is a peer-reviewed study. Again, this is not going to be the headline in the New York Times or the Washington Post. This won't be in the A block for MSNBC, CNBC. No one's going to report this except Dr. John Campbell in this show. No one's going to report this.
What's that? The guy came on. We had. I can't remember his name. They already knew before they put it out the stuff that preserves the mRNA. That simian, whatever
SV40,
it is,
SV40.
Yeah, that makes cancer way worse. They knew this since the 60s.
Since they put it in the polio vaccine.
Known, you think it's not on purpose? You think they weren't trying to soft kill, a word I didn't make up, the people in government made up. In fact, Queen Elizabeth used to say,
so look at
soft that. Kill.
You have a 34% higher chance of getting colorectal cancer after one mRNA vaccine.
Oh, good. I had 2.
You have a 54% higher of breast cancer. You have 62% higher of bladder cancer. Let's keep going.
Breast cancer. So that was after at least one dose of vaccine.
One dose.
After 3 doses of vaccine, 3 or more doses, risk of breast cancer actually went down somewhat to plus 36%, and the bladder cancer was a 43% higher chance of getting bladder cancer. And all of these results are significant. So all of these are statistically significant results showing increase in these cancers 180 days after the first vaccine, or 180 days after the third vaccine, if they'd had more. Let's carry on and look at some more data from this. After one or more dose at 180 days. So all cancers up 23%. That is a significant increase. And when the statisticians actually worked it out, that's the difference between 0.85% of the unvaccinated group getting a cancer and 1.15% of the vaccinated group getting a cancer.
So it's 23%. I said, what did I say? 50%. So my math was wrong. His math is right. That's a 23% increase for all cancers after one dose.
Out when they allowed for the variables at a 23% increase. Colorectal cancer up 34%, again significant. Breast cancer also a significant increase. Now lung cancer appeared to be down by 10%, which of course is good news. Uterine cancer up 75%, ovarian cancer up 66%. Remember, this is after one dose of vaccine at 100.
How many people have you known that have had contracted cancer and died recently? I know 2 people within the last month that I know personally. 3 people. Anyway, here we go.
80 days after that vaccine had been given. Prostate cancer was up 1%. Bladder cancer was up 62%. That was a significant increase. Thyroid cancer up 58% and hematological 33%. Now, all of these ones here, where I haven't written significant, that means that the increase here is not significant. It's not a significant increase. Now, it looks like there's a genuine increase. But when you take into account the fact that, thankfully, only 3,124 people were admitted with cancers, when you broke that down by cancer type, sometimes the numbers weren't sufficient to give a statistically significant result. But given that so many of these are increased, I would be very surprised if it was a larger sample, which of course we don't have. But if it was a larger sample, for example, all of the population of the UK, then I'm afraid my suspicion is that these will be, highly significant. But we don't know that. We can only say what the paper says. So as of now, that's not significant. Uterine's not significant. Ovarian's not significant, in that it's not statistically proved. But the bladder, as we said, the colorectal, breast, bladder are statistically significantly proved. So let's look at the situation after 3 doses, 180 days after administration of the third dose. Now, here, all cancers are up 9%. Now, note it was 23% after 6 months. Now, I think there's 2 factors at play here. One is that those people that were predisposed to get cancers basically had already developed it by this time. Because 180 days after the third cancer is going to be obviously a lot longer after 180 days after the third dose of vaccine given is going to be a long, long time after the first dose. So perhaps the 23% increase in cancers at 6 months means that people that are going to get cancer after this may get it early. We don't know that, but this is only follow-up of a year for cancer. For cancer, we need follow-up of decades, of course. That was the whole problem with these things. There was no long-term studies, and they vaccinated the control groups in very short order in most studies, so the whole thing was a complete debacle. But anyway, is that a slight glimmer of hope? Maybe. But of course, we won't know the answer to that for the next 10, 20 years. There's more cancers. There's more people are diagnosed with cancer over that period of time. This is 180 days after the third dose of vaccine. Colorectal cancer up 14, not significant. Lung cancer down 5, not significant. Not saying there's not a genuine increase, not saying there's not a genuine reduction, but the numbers weren't big enough to get significant statistics. And of course, this is based on 95% confidence. So if they're only 94% confident that cancer had gone up, like good scientists, they claim that was not a significant result. And we have to be 95% sure. The 0.05 threshold is the one that's being used, of course. Anyway, breast cancer up 36%, and that was significant. 180 days after the third dose. Significant increase. Anyway, uterine up 20, ovarian up 86, not significant. Probably genuine, but not a significant result. So maybe only 90% sure that they're accurate. We need bigger numbers. Prostate down 3%. Bladder up 43%, but significant. So significant increase in bladder cancer. Which is not a nice cancer to get. Well, no cancer is nice to get, but bladders are nasty cancer to die from, to be quite honest. It's not nice. Thyroid down 3%, hematological up 5%. I mean, these smaller numbers, with the fact that they weren't significant, probably just noise. It's probably not too significant. But I'm afraid we are seeing 23% increase in all cancers 6 months after a first dose of vaccine. Slightly less after a year, but we simply don't know what it's going to be like after 2 years, 3 years. Now, hopefully this cohort will be followed up. Let me just give you a little bit of detail about this cohort to show the validity of this research, which is this one. So it is a population-wide cohort analysis evaluating the risk of all-cause deaths and cancer hospital admissions by SARS coronavirus 2 vaccination status. So it's evaluating 2 things. Risk of all-cause death. and risk of hospitalization for a cancer diagnosis. Now, the vaccinated group had a lower all-cause mortality during that period of time. This is almost certainly attributable to what we call healthy vaccine effect, because we were told, manipulated, lied, whatever you want to call it, that this vaccine was good for our health. We now know that for many of us, it wasn't. For me, it certainly wasn't. And I know for thousands of you watching, it wasn't.
It wasn't for me.
That's what we believe. So people with an interest in health tended to get vaccinated. Those that were sitting drinking a bottle of wine in a back street didn't bother going in. So we have this healthy vaccination effect.
So what he's saying is that people who are really concerned about their health, people who are more healthy, thought they were doing something healthy and they went and got their COVID vaccines. And the people who didn't care about their health and who were, drinking booze in the alley, like he said, they didn't go get it. So, okay, here we go.
I should have smoked crack. I should have tried crack this whole time.
Yep.
Because I got 2 shots.
I got 2
Hunter
shots.
Biden looks great. He smoked crack.
Yeah.
And of course, this means that the real 23% increase noted at 6 months after the first vaccine is almost certainly an underestimate, because the people that were healthier tended to get the vaccines. So the real figure could well be 29, 30% more cancers at 6 months after the first dose. Speculation, we don't know that. We can only say what the paper says, but that's the nature of the healthy vaccine effect. This is from the National Health System Office data at the entire population, Pescara province in Italy. Followed up for 2.5 years, as we've said, from June 2021, which of course is 6 months after the first vaccination, followed up till December 2023, or up until the point that a particular patient that was being followed was admitted with the first diagnosis of cancer, or when someone died. So nearly 300,000 residents over 11. That was the number of admissions due to cancer. So 16.6% were unvaccinated. Such was the effectiveness of the propaganda campaign in Italy, as in the UK. 83% 1 dose, 62.2% 3 doses. Compared to the unvaccinated, those receiving more than 1 dose of vaccine showed a significantly lower likelihood of all-cause death, as we've said, due to the healthy vaccine effect. Also, I don't know so much about Italy. I think it's the case, but if certainly in the UK we would expect to find that, because a lot of the people that were vaccinated were in care homes, and a lot of those died way sooner than they should have done because they were given overdoses of midazolam and morphine, which of course is one of the completely buried scandals of the pandemic, the number of people that were just bumped off.
So what he's just said was that a lot of the people who died in hospital with COVID died because of the treatment, because they were given morphine that slows down their breathing. Even Fauci said intubation was wrong. And of course, we know remdesivir that they were treating, not good.
With midazolam and morphine, who would have made an uneventful recovery. An outrageous, bloody stain on Western civilization, which is basically being ignored.
So he's saying people who would have recovered from COVID didn't because of the treatment they were given.
That would have enhanced the amount of people dying after vaccine. Right. Cancer hospitalization was, I said that bit. Right, so some cancer risks went down after 1 year. Can we hang too much on this? Not yet. We need more longitudinal data. But breast, ovarian, and bladder went up at 1 year relative to the 180 doses after vaccine. So particular risk here. Well, we've got breast, ovarian, and bladder cancer. Clearly, now of course men can get breast cancer, but we are talking primarily about women here. So risk to women here for cancer greater than men, perhaps. Not really, because I suspect a lot of the cancer increases were genuine. It's just that there wasn't big enough numbers to be able to demonstrate it statistically. And like good scientists at the NSA, given that it was not possible to quantify the potential impact of the healthy vaccinee bias and unmeasured confounders, these findings are inevitably preliminary. But if anything, that statement would indicate that the vaccines caused or were associated with more cancers than they were able to identify. Thinking about Bradford Hill criteria, are there plausible mechanisms here? Yes, of course. Ongoing production of spike protein will cause inflammation. Ongoing inflammation is associated with cancer. Autoimmune attacking of the tissues will cause chronic inflammation associated with cancer. DNA contamination that Dr. David Speakers told us about so accurately, so much science in that. DNA contamination probably causing cancers. Or DNA contamination there, certainly a great theoretical risk of cancer, largely by inhibiting tumor suppressor genes. Frame shifting. So the pseudouridine means that the ribosomes don't read the proteins properly, and you end up with rogue proteins getting made again, rogue proteins, inflammation. Any mutation, of course, is a cancer. I mean, a cancer starts as a mutation. So lots of plausible mechanisms there. Data starting to come through. The fact that the British government, for example, just to pick one government, is not releasing the detailed information of who was vaccinated and who was not versus incidence of other diseases in my view, quite outrageous. Our statisticians are waiting to analyse this, but they can't.
So he's saying in the UK, we can't get this data. They won't release the data on who was vaccinated, who was unvaccinated, and they won't do a study on it, and they won't release the data in the UK. So that's why
Don't they have enough problems?
That's why he's got to go to Italy to find this study. But that has been peer reviewed. And he's saying there's lots of ways that it could cause cancer. The spike protein causes inflammation. Inflammation causes the spike protein that you get from the vax can cause inflammation. Inflammation causes cancer. It also can suppress the T cells that fight against cancer. There's lots of different mechanisms that can lead to this higher cancer out. We don't know exactly what they are, but those are the plausible ones.
Because they don't know who was vaccinated and who wasn't relative to certain diseases. In this one province in Italy, 300,000 people, we do know. And based on that population size, it's not good. Based on 50 million people in the UK or a couple hundred million people in the United States, well, I think you don't need me to extrapolate that for you. This is a concern. At the moment, I think the lack of data compromises a cover-up and is not acceptable. But sadly, this is the...
And he says the lack of data in the UK is equivalent to a cover-up, that they're covering up data because they don't want people to know this. And you saw, I just showed you those two asswipes, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, screaming about that RFK is limiting the COVID boosters, which no one's taking anyway. By the way, if you know Dr. John Campbell, tell him to come on my show. He won't come on my show. I don't know why he won't come on my show, but he'll go on CNN, the people who lied about COVID. He'll go on there at the top of their lungs. I never lied about COVID. I don't know why. I don't know what his resistance is to coming on my show. But if you have access to Dr. John Campbell, I've had Dr. Jay Bhattacharya on my show. I'd have RFK on my show. I've had Dr. Mel Horta on my show. I've had Dr. Robert Malone on my show. I'd have Dr. Peter McCullough on my show. I have all the leading doctors. I have Dr. Pierre Corey. All the leading doctors who are doing their research and telling the truth about COVID. They've all on my show. He won't come on my show. I would love for him to come on my show. Nobody promotes this guy more than me.
Current period of time we are in the United Kingdom and indeed various other Western countries. I think maybe just to finish, so far it's looking like, based on a very small amount of data, the longer it is since your vaccine, if you haven't got cancer yet, it's looking, from this provisionally, less likely at a year than it is at 6 months in terms of percentage. Now, the increase is still there. But does that mean that the risk is declining with time? Heck, I really hope so.
So he's saying it looks like, hey, if it's been a couple of years since you got your vaccine and you haven't gotten cancer, the likelihood of you getting it from that is less. That's what he's saying. So so most people get it right away within the first 6 months, and then it starts to go down.
I really hope so. I really hope that this is true. But we simply don't know. But bear in mind early warning signs of cancer. So, for example, if we just take breast cancer there, early warning signs, breast awareness is important. Any asymmetry, any new changes in the size of one breast versus the other, any dimpling of the skin on the breast, any inversion of the nipple, any discharge, blood or pus from the nipple, any hard mass in the breast, get it checked out by an experienced palpator and get medical opinion as regards further assessment of that. Because of course, all cancers, the earlier you catch them, the better. Just to take one more example there, bladder cancer, any blood in the urine must be explained. So if ever you get blood in your urine, if you're a man, if you ever get blood in your urine, go to the doctor immediately.
Okay, I went to the doctor yesterday. Guess what? I had blood in my urine.
Yeah. But
So
you're
they
into
said-
cock and ball torture, so that's probably why, right?
So yeah, that's probably it. But they said, this is what they said. They said you have to go get a CT scan of your kidneys. And I'm at the hospital. I go, okay, so what office they go to? Go, you have to call this number to schedule. I'm like, can't you just call them? You're in the same hospital. Can't you just call the CT guy and say, I'm sending a guy down? Because that's what they did when I had my kidney stone attack. They just sent me and gave me a CT scan immediately. And they go, no, that's not how it works. You have to call. And I go, but if I had a kidney stone attack right now and I was in the emergency room, they'd give me a CT scan, right? He goes, yeah. So you can't just give me one now before I have to wait till I have an emergency. So I call the number and I say, hey, I got my doctor said I got to get a CT scan. And the lady scheduling says, okay, well, we can't schedule you right now for a CT scan. I said, why? This needs prior authorization. I go, I already got authorization from my doctor. Who do you need authorization? They go, your insurance company. We have to get permission to give you a CT scan. You have blood in your urine. You already have a history of kidney stuff. We have to wait for the insurance company to tell us it's okay to give it to you. This is unbelievable. This is the world we live in.
Or even if your urine changes colour. So I had blood in my urine once, and it wasn't bright red, but there was a subtle change in colour. And because I emptied 10,000 urine bags, I recognised that subtle change in colour as being blood, and was able to get that addressed. You can get dipsticks from some pharmacists to test for blood, so if there's any blood there. Women, of course, pre-menopausal, no problem, post-menopausal, shouldn't be any blood. Menstruating women, if there's blood in the urine, then test mid-cycle. So if there's blood in the urine at the time of menstruation, don't worry about it, just test again in 2 weeks' time in the mid-cycle period, and there shouldn't be any. So if women have got any blood mid-cycle, pathological sign, get it checked out. And be aware of the early warning signs of cancer. We've done videos on that before. Ovarian, sadly, often presents late. I think we should be doing much more ultrasound assessment for ovarian cancers. We've looked at the early warning signs of colorectal cancers, change in bowel habits, thin stools, blood, of course. Any blood in the stool should be explained. Be aware of early warning signs of cancer. The earlier it's treated, the better. I'd like to say we're ending on a hopeful note, but based on differential figures between 6 months and 1 year, we can't say that yet. It might not be me, but hopefully someone will come on in 20 years' time and say, look, John's concerns weren't that justified. The cancers are going down now after a year, but at the moment, we don't know. We don't know. What we do know is after 180 days after the first dose of vaccine, we had these several significant increases in cancers, 23% increase in overall cancers, and that increase was maintained at 9% in overall cancers a year after the first or the third dose of vaccine. Get the paper for yourself. It's all there, public domain, PDF available. For now, stay well.
And you know, the best medicine is laughter, and you can come see me make fun of COVID and the COVID vaccine in Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Illinois, Chicago, Louisville, Fort Wayne, Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, San Francisco, and Soul Joel's in Pottstown. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Come see me on tour in Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, Louisville, Fort Wayne, Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, San Francisco, Irvine. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.